Hello there, everyone. I'm Gaylen Morse, and welcome to Journey to Recovery. We appreciate you listening. Our podcast today is called Rebuilding Trust. Chemical dependency problems often come with hurt, betrayal, and heartache, and tear at the very fabric of a relationship. In today's episode, we'll discuss specific strategies to acknowledge mistakes, begin the reconciliation process, and rebuild a relationship with mutual respect and trust. Our program host is Dr. Hal Baumchen, a licensed clinical psychologist and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. He's an author, speaker, and clinician with over 30 years of counseling experience. I'm here today with Tim Bode, Director of Operations at Northland Counseling Services, and with Dr. Hal Baumchen, our host at Journey to Recovery. Hello, gentlemen.
Morning.
Hey, Gaylen.
You guys were right on time today, but I knew you would be.
Actually, this is one of those rare times where we were not on time.
You're usually not this sarcastic early in the morning, Gaylen.
Hey, today we're gonna talk about trust and rebuilding trust, and we're gonna go over a couple of things that make people trustworthy. And one of the things that happens, like you mentioned in the intro, is that folks struggling with an addiction actually kind of blow up relationships, damage them, maybe betray someone or lie continually about what they're doing and who they're with and where they're going and how they're using drugs and alcohol and minimizing things. All of those things damage trust. So we're going to try to work our way through that with a particular emphasis on what can you do when that's happened? How can you rebuild trust?
So mental health is made possible when we're honest with ourselves and with others.
And I would say it becomes a foundational piece both for any kind of relationship and then also for your recovery. How can you possibly recover from drugs and alcohol use and abuse when you're lying through your teeth and not owning your own difficulties? So, yeah, a big component here.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about broken trust and rebuilding that. So I'm wondering if you can give us an example of broken trust.
Well, it would be like when you ask somebody to bring the camera equipment and they say they will, and then they don't. That would be an example.
Yeah. Well, you could have reminded that someone.
Okay, I see what's happening here.
Yeah, we had a little miscommunication.
So let's just move on here, shall we?
Rebuilding trust with someone is not just a decision to be made.
No, it's more than that. It's really going to be rebuilding your lifestyle or changing lifestyle, making some different lifestyle choices that have to be demonstrated over time. So not just one decision point, but kind of a demonstration of I'm different.
So the significance then of being able to trust those you love and live with sounds super important.
Absolutely. And psychologists have been talking about this for decades, that any kind of human connection or a human relationship, you've got to have that foundational piece of trust. Erik Erikson was one of those psychologists who came up with developmental stages. And one of the very first that he talked about was trust versus mistrust. And that if you don't have that foundational piece, how do you build anything in a relationship or even in a sense of your own identity without having that I can trust the world, I can trust my parents, I can trust people. So very important thing.
Yeah, that allows us to kind of guess what's next and predict someone's actions or attitudes in the future.
Kind of like the never-failing regularity of the sunrise in the morning.
Right. Or driving in America where a red light means stop and a green light means go, but driving in India, and I've been there 17 times, driving in India, a red light is kind of a suggestion. And actually, you don't know if you can trust that the other driver is going to stop.
They often don't.
Yes, right. Yeah, you've been to India. You understand this. It's a suggestion. We recommend that you stop, but it's not actually required.
The most amazing part of that was watching the policeman on the corner just sort of watch people do that.
Yeah, when nobody gets arrested for that. Yeah. So predictability brings comfort and security, and trust is certainty and assurance. And so that's why you want to live in a world where you can trust other people, you can trust the sunrise, you can trust certain laws are going to be in effect. We drive on the right-hand side of the road. You can just get used to that. It brings about some assurance.
Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Hal, what happens when trust is shattered?
Well, first of all, shattered's a good word because I think something really is broken and damaged when you can't trust somebody, when somebody lies to you, and so a very painful kind of thing. And in substance abuse, mistrust and damaging trust can really be a shameful thing because I see myself as honest and trustworthy, but now when I start using drugs and alcohol, now I'm lying through my teeth. And I think that is, it's really hurtful for somebody going through that, and then, of course, for their loved ones. Many addicts, when they start using, they end up hiding in the shadows, keeping things secret, and working in the dark. They're not upfront about what they're doing, and again, that's going to create a lot of relational problems.
So lying, being secretive and deceptive, that all erodes the integrity and trustworthiness?
And mistrust brings anxiety and heightened insecurities.
It can also raise suspiciousness, I imagine, and make someone hypersensitive.
Being on guard and hypervigilant, like, are you going to stab me in the back? Can I trust you? Are you lying to me again? Yeah, so all of those kinds of things. If you live in that world, I think you become hypersensitive, suspicious, maybe even a little paranoid. Then certain drugs like methamphetamine and even marijuana can make you paranoid too, but methamphetamine can kind of heighten that as well. So it becomes a problem.
Why would somebody damage a relationship and then lie about it?
Yeah, no one would do that. One of the things that happens is that people usually know what honesty and truth is, and they like being upfront and direct, but they also like approval. And when those two concepts come in contest with one another, people often sacrifice honesty and truth in order to try to retain approval, although it doesn't always work.
Well, because lying to someone can ruin a relationship pretty quickly, I would think.
And the belief and faith you have in others is difficult to build or rebuild, and yet it can be almost effortlessly ruined, almost without trying. You can damage it so quickly. And I generally think of trust as track record. So you can, the way you trust us to be on time, because that's pretty much our track record,
Absolutely.
except for today. And so you trust us according to track record. So trust is track record, and it has to be demonstrated over time.
Like today, it always takes longer to establish a track record than it does to spoil it.
Right.
Well, consider a piece of furniture like your desk here, Gaylen. That might take 60 hours to build, but only 60 minutes to burn that down into complete ashes. 60 seconds, you could probably damage it with smoke and fire. And so trust is like that. It takes a long time to build it, and then you can wreck it in one night, if you know what I mean by that, or wreck it pretty quickly. Then, well, because it only took 60 minutes to damage it, it probably only takes 60 minutes to rebuild it, right? No, it doesn't. It takes so long to rebuild it as well.
Let's talk about some common lies, manipulations, and deceptions in addiction.
In addiction, let me start again. Addiction isn't the only place you're going to see dishonesty. You can see that with a lot of personal problems. I don't want to admit, what I'm doing or that kind of thing.
You're probably talking about politics, Dr. Hal.
That does come up, doesn't it? Can I trust that person?
Yeah, and dishonesty erodes trust, right? So we're going to talk about some things that destroy someone's confidence and trust in you. We have a list we're going to go over.
Yeah, get us started, Gaylen.
Number one, you've lied about how much you've used.
Yeah, so in addiction, there are lots of secrets and living in the shadows. But one of them is, how much did you drink? And then the standard answer is just 2 beers, doesn't matter. It could be 10. And the answer is often 2, a couple beers maybe. I don't know. I didn't count. And so people lie about how much they used.
And not only about how much they've used, but about how often they've used.
Right. The rule of thumb is we can often double that. If you say you used once a week, it might be twice. If you say it's twice, it might be 4.
You minimize the problems you've had with your alcohol and drug use and abuse.
Gaylen, one of the things that, I've done a lot of writing in curriculum for drug and alcohol, programs, and I created a list of all the consequences that come up after drug use has begun. There are, I think, 105 items on the list. Just sat down one day in my rocking chair and wrote out everything that people have told me over the years. And when the guys go through that list, men and women go through that list and see the consequences of their own addiction over the years, not just a one-time thing, not just the last 30 days, but over the years, it's an enormous amount. Guys have had 50, 60, 70 items on that list. DUIs, interlock, legal fees, court costs, mental health problems, increased depression, suicidal ideation, and on and on. And so nobody likes to face that list, so there's often minimizing. It's not that bad. It hasn't really caused me many problems. When you start taking an honest look at it, it's pretty serious.
How about you've lied or cheated to get what you want, or used guilt to manipulate other people?
Yeah, guilt's a great thing, isn't it? Wow. Get what you want by making somebody feel bad. Mom, you've always treated sister better than you've treated me. I've never asked you for anything ever before. Can't you do just this one thing one time? And that's guilt and manipulation that's happening there. And so folks that fall into addiction and damage trust often kind of go to that guilt, trying to apply pressure.
How about judging yourself on your own intentions and not on your actions, or judging other people on their actions but not on their intentions?
Right. Let me kind of re-explain that.
Yeah.
So oftentimes I look at my intentions. I intended to be on time today, but you weren't. And then I judge other people on their actions. I don't really look at my own actions. I look at my intentions. I look at their actions and disregard their intentions.
How about you try to lead others to believe that you're not in any trouble with your drinking?
Right. It's a small thing. This is the only time, I've never lost a job, never missed a day of work in my life. So we try to maybe lie or minimize those problems that have come up. We mentioned that before.
You've deceived yourself, telling yourself that your life was normal. It's normal.
Yeah, everybody drinks like this, or those folks drink more, use more than I do, and they have real problems and I don't. And so that's actually a self-deception. It's not that I'm just lying to you. I'm actually deceiving myself. I believe that.
How about you've stolen from your family and friends?
Yeah, again, people say, I've got some limits to what I would do in terms of this sort of corrupt behavior, this deceitful behavior, and I would never lie to my friends. I would never steal anything from my friends and family. And then they violate that. They end up, stealing from their own parents or their children or something.
We kind of mentioned intentions earlier, but you have good intentions, but you don't deliver on them.
Right,
you don't follow
right.
through.
Maybe promise to be better and really intend that, and then don't follow through. Exactly.
Maybe one notch back from stealing, you've borrowed something but never got around to returning it.
Yeah. It reminds me of a cocaine user who broke into his ex-wife's house, stole the snowblower, and hocked it at the pawn shop. I think he intended to bring it back someday. I think he told himself he was going to bring it back.
He lost the ticket and couldn't redeem it.
Yes, right. So when we think about that list we just went through, that's quite the list of damaging actions, isn't it?
Yes, and it can take a long time to rebuild a relationship when you've burnt it down so bad.
Yeah.
And of course, these things very quickly damage the relationship.
Absolutely, right. And, again, we've talked about this, Tim, but you can be dishonest about how much you're using. You can dishonestly blame other people actually for the trouble that you're in or the trouble you've caused. And you've lied about where you're going, who you're going to be with. And even when you're caught, you end up denying the truth. So just so many different ways that we can explain or evidence a problem in a relationship that have to do with trust and damaging trust.
Yeah. So why is being honest or acknowledging your dishonesty so difficult?
Well, I think we kind of stumbled on it before when I want to retain approval, and I know I'm going to lose that if I'm honest and upset, or I'm going to get in more trouble too.
Yeah. So I think there are some things that we can talk about again, a few things about why it's so difficult.
I think shame is one of those things. It's just that embarrassment that I'm I'm screwing up my life because I'm drinking too much, or I just was going to sample the drug once or twice, and now I'm addicted to it.
Yeah. And you don't want others to not trust you, right? So that's why it's so hard to be honest, because you don't want to lose that trust.
Right. I've lied to you 10 times in a row. I don't want to admit to that. You won't trust me.
Yeah, and I think kind of tied to that, you'll lose approval of others or lose an important relationship.
Right. So I think the biggest lies are to the loved ones. I don't want to lose that boyfriend or girlfriend, lie to them, lie to other people about where I was.
I think we often use the word trust as though it's an all or nothing concept.
Yeah, the reality probably is trust would be better off looked at on a continuum. So you can mostly trust me most of the time in most areas. You don't let me balance your checkbook, but you trust me to be kind and respectful. So you can trust me and most people most of the time in most areas. And I do hear it as, I can't trust you. And I don't really like to hear it that way. Trust is such a big word, kind of a fidelity word. And sometimes it gets used for dinky little areas like, hey, could you get some milk? Yeah, I'll pick up milk tonight when I come home from work. And then that guy comes home and his wife says, where's the milk? Oh, I drove right by the store, too. I just totally blanked on that. I forgot it. I can't trust you with anything. Don't use trust over milk. It's the wrong word. Call the guy an airhead or forgetful or distracted or something, but it's not. I don't really like to hear the word trust there. So. But again, to your point, Tim, we often use it as all or nothing. I can't trust you. Forget the milk. I can't trust you in anything.
So why should we bother rebuilding trust?
Well, again, without trust, you can't drive. You can't expect the sun to come up. You can't expect somebody to be there for you in the morning when you wake up. You can't raise children together. You can't expect your paycheck to come. We really need trust in the relationships. And it's important to have trust and develop that trust and to build trust in a relationship.
Right. And part of what that question that's built into that is that trust can actually be rebuilt or restored, right? And once it's reestablished, then the relationship is often stronger than it was before.
Yes, hard to believe, isn't it? But that's really true. I think it tests the relationship and allows you to build it and strengthen it.
Dissolving the relationship probably will cause way more emotional hardships and distress.
Yeah, so if you're mistrusted, if you're untrustworthy, then I might as well just get out of the relationship. But you're right, Gaylen, that's just going to create hardships. And you're going to have to be in a relationship in the future, and you'll have to trust somebody at some point in time. Well, I'm just going to be in a relationship where that person never hurts me. Ha, 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 ha. Good luck on that. People, it's a rough sport, life, and you're going to get bumped, you're going to get lied to, or something isn't going to go your way.
Yep.
So what about trusting unsafe people? Because there certainly are unsafe people in the world.
You can get in trouble in two different ways with trust. You can end up not trusting people that I should trust, like authorities, the police officer, the judge, the counselor, the priest. And then I end up trusting people I never should have gotten involved with, like gang members, my cellmate in jail, other drug users and addicts. And I end up trusting those folks that I maybe shouldn't. And I don't trust people that I probably should. So you can have two problems at the same time.
So are you saying that the negative people, that they're never trustworthy?
Ouch. No, I wouldn't really say it that way. I think you have to be careful and draw some boundaries. Who can you trust and when can you trust them and to what degree can you trust them? But no, I wouldn't say that some people are never trustworthy.
Dr. Hal, can you talk a little bit about the difference between forgiveness and trust? Both of those seem like important concepts in light of what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I'm kind of watching the clock here too, so I think I'll just try to explain that quickly, and then maybe we can pick up some of these other concepts on our next program. Trust is different from forgiveness. Forgiveness, in my opinion, addresses issues going back in time. So I damaged the trust I hurt you, but you can forgive me, or I borrow money from you, I can't repay, you can forgive me the debt. Trust addresses issues going forward in time. So I've hurt you a number of times. Even though you've forgiven me, you probably don't trust me, because trust is track record, and you don't trust that I've changed my track record. I've not shown you any way of demonstrating that I'm different, that I've changed. And so again, forgiveness goes backward, trust goes forward. You can forgive somebody in the past and still not trust them, meaning you should draw a boundary, keep yourself safe, protect yourself the best you can. Then if they hurt you again, consider forgiving them again, but maybe draw a better boundary moving into the future. Thanks, Gaylen. Take us out.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast entitled Rebuilding Trust. You can download other materials that help you develop skills to identify emotional problems, reduce symptoms, and prevent relapse at journeytorecovery.com. We've been visiting with Dr. Hal Baumchen, licensed clinical psychologist and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. I'm Gaylen Morse. Thanks for listening to today's program. See you next time on Journey to Recovery. Remember, recovery is a journey. Enjoy the ride.